Just this week, 275,000 federal workers were fired.
President Trump today doubling down on his move to dramatically and rapidly shrink the federal workforce.
We want to downsize government, but make it better.
That's over 10% of the entire U.S. federal workforce, wiped out in the matter of a few days.
Trump administration's beginning mass layoffs of federal workers impacting multiple agencies.
Thousands of workers who handle everything from managing federal lands to caring for military veterans have been fired.
Many thousands of these workers were given just 30 minutes to pack up and get out.
You're fired! You're fired! You're fired! Get out of here!
What we're currently witnessing is the biggest government job purge in U.S. history. A whopping 75,000 federal workers took the buyout, which is basically a severance to resign early.
75,000 federal workers accepted President Trump's buyout program, offered more than 2 million federal workers to be paid through September 30th if they resigned by February 6th.
But the real shock, a whopping 200,000 were told to get out with no pay, no warnings, no protections, nothing. Normally, a government job is one of the safest jobs and safest positions that an American can have. But no longer is that the case. These weren't just random layoffs. These were federal employees, people working in critical government agencies. Veteran Affairs, Department of Education's entire divisions getting completely gutted. As that's going on, the White House just announced they are going to fire many thousands of IRS agents right in the middle of tax season.
IRS is preparing to fire potentially 15,000 workers in the middle of tax season.
15,000 employees at the IRS now identified for possible termination.
But the White House will not confirm the exact number of people losing their jobs across entire divisions of government. Meanwhile, government unions are already fighting back.
That's right, they are not going to cast us aside.
Federal workers rallied by the hundreds against President Trump's campaign to slash government programs,
calling it a political purge. But here's the question that no one is asking. Will these job losses even show up on the next unemployment report? Or will these numbers be quietly revised down again? Just like the 1.4 million jobs that quietly disappeared last year. And it's not just the government. The entire job market is collapsing right in front of us. And yet they're telling us it's stronger than ever. Let's take a real look at what's happening and why the numbers simply don't add up. The layoffs are piling up fast. Just in the last 5 days, many of America's biggest companies have issued massive layoffs. Everything from tech to automotive to even banking. Every industry is getting impacted right now. Chevron just announced they are slashing 20% of their global workforce, a whopping 8,000 jobs gone.
Chevron is laying off 15 to 20% of its workforce by the end of next year. That represents up to 8,000 people.
Chevron says the layoffs are needed to reduce costs and raise profits.
This comes after a disastrous year for oil markets, leading to cost cutting at record levels. Meta just laid off 3,600 employees.
Last month, Facebook's parent company said it planned to cut 5% of its workforce.
Meta Platforms is preparing to lay off approximately 3,600 employees.
But here's what's wild. Workers are blaming AI. They say Mark Zuckerberg is replacing real people with automation, while calling his employees low performers. Boeing is cutting hundreds of jobs, and not just any jobs. These layoffs are tied to NASA's Artemis program delays, which means even government-backed projects aren't safe from cuts. JP Morgan Chase just officially began job cuts for 2025, and this is just phase one. The bank is letting go of employees across multiple divisions, even as the company posts record profits. And this isn't just tech and banking. Right now, North Texas businesses are seeing a wave of job losses as small businesses struggle to keep up with inflation. You have rising costs and declining consumer demand. But that's not all. Retail is collapsing in front of us all across America. Many thousands of stores, both mid-size and large, are closing up shop. Walgreens, they're closing 1,200 locations nationwide.
Walgreens announced it is closing about 1,200 stores.
It's all part of eliminating stores that are
underperforming.
This means thousands of pharmacy workers, store clerks, and managers will be out of a job inside of the next 90 days. Joann Fabrics, once a household name for DIY lovers, just announced they're shutting down 500 of their 800 stores all throughout America after filing for bankruptcy again.
Crafting retailer Joann Fabrics is closing 500 stores.
Fabrics is shutting down 500 stores across the country.
Party City, they just announced they are letting go of 18,000 workers and shutting down locations all across America.
The largest party supply store in the United States plans to close all of its stores.
You have Big Lots, one of the largest discount retailers in America, will be closing at least 150 locations from now until April 7th of this year.
All Big Lots stores will hold going out of business sales as the company prepares to close permanently.
Big Lots is closing all of its stores nationwide,
with even more closures expected. JCPenney, already struggling for years, is shutting down even more stores in 2025.
JCPenney, the retailer, plans to close several stores this summer,
marking another major blow to brick and mortar retail. This is not just about store closings. We all know about this. It's about jobs disappearing entirely from our economy. But here's where it gets really sketchy. The job numbers, we are told, are not real. If layoffs are exploding and stores are closing all across the country, how is unemployment going down? And why does the government keep telling us the job market and the economy is strong? Here's the truth they do not want you to focus on. In March of 2024, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics proudly announced the U.S. added a whopping 598,000 jobs. But months later, the media stopped covering it. That number was erased and 598,000 jobs never existed. Think about how big of a number that is. Nearly 600,000 jobs added and then